Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan off the Motor City Madmouth. Great crew lined up here tonight. We're going to be talking MLB playoffs, Shohei Ohtani, and we're going to have some interesting parting shots. What a show we have lined up. Hope you can stay with from start to finish. The crew that will do it with me is Rick Curdy, Mr. Opinion. Welcome back, Rick.
Thanks, guys. Good seeing you again.
And Eric Katz, welcome back to the baseball show. I know we're going to be getting what Fire Up Wisconsin going shortly, but in the meantime, I want to keep you in action because I know it's a sport you know a lot about, and we will
Yeah, it's good to
you'll
be
never
here.
you will never lose your baseball gig no matter what we do with Fire Up Wisconsin. Because the problem is you're too damn knowledgeable with the sport for me to totally keep you off of it. It all depends on availability.
You
Will I go to
you
a 5 or 6
also
man group to keep you on? I don't like to go that many people because everybody looks like ants, but you're on tonight and glad you were able to make it, Eric.
thank you. You actually caught me at a perfect time. At a
Yeah.
very rare time, you caught me perfectly after the game 5 tonight.
Oh, well, I'll bet you're in a giddy mood. All right.
Oh yeah.
And the last man of our crew is Jordan Long, all the way out in the Rocky Mountains area. Jordan, I'm glad you're a fixture on this broadcast. Not only do you know your stuff, but you're good at it.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, well, let's take care of business, okay? Our first topic of the evening is Shohei Ohtani is not happy about missing the playoffs. The Angels' seventh consecutive losing season. They missed the playoffs in 8 consecutive years. Had to endure a 14-game losing streak. Of course, it didn't hurt that Joe Madden got fired, too. They were 73 up, 89 down, 33 games behind the Astros. Ohtani, as a pitcher, went 15-9 with a 2.33 earned run average. As a hitter, had a 273 average, 34 home runs and 95 RBIs. He is going to get $30 million for the 2023 season, and he becomes a free agent. So the only question I'm going to ask you out of this, guys, okay, is where will Ohtani land in 2024? You know what, Mr. Southern California Curdy, talk to me.
Otani will not be with the Angels much longer. He's gonna go to, and Eric will probably love this. He's gonna go to the New York Yankees. Broadway, legendary. They're a great team, most championships ever. LA right now, the Angels are dumpster fire. They have a horrible owner, lots of money, don't know what he's doing. Otani is gonna go to the Big Apple with the Yankees.
Okay, Eric.
I think as I think I think Otani, he's obviously leaving the Angels. Why would you want to stick around there? I mean, it is a shamble of a franchise. And I'm thinking, everybody's talking New York, which New York will probably more than likely be in the conversation because what conversation aren't they in? But I wouldn't rule out the Braves because the Braves are showing like they're willing to spend as well as grow their own. The Braves have a solid team. Even the Phillies, for that matter. Dave Dombrowski loves to spend money.
All right,
Even if
give
he
me
does,
one, not two. Don't pull any Rick Curdy stuff about one or the other.
I think it'll be the Phillies because they got a great lineup. They need some. They could use some. They could be better in the pitching department and having him play both ways. I mean, you kind of get a guy who can just do both extremely well. And and with how well he pitched in the American League, especially teams like the Astros and a bunch of other teams, I think he'd be a fit in Philadelphia. I mean, Dombrowski loves to spend and loves to win right away.
Okay, Jordan, you're up.
I'm going to have to say it's not going to be the Yankees. It's going to be the Mets. The Mets like to spend. They need it. Obviously, he's a hitter and a pitcher. What better way to go to New York than go to the Mets? I mean, Yankees, yeah, you're going to have a lot of pressure there. Of course, he's leaving the Angels where, there weren't very high expectations. Yankees, you would have a high expectation. With the Mets, at least you would be the second team in New York.
Well, I'm going to throw one out there for you guys. I'm going to say the San Diego Padres.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why, but Padres have been opening up the checkbook a lot, and they're doing some pretty good things under Bob Melvin. So there you have it. I'll recap it before we go on to the San Diego Padres. Great segue, I tell you. Rick Curdy says the Yankees. I will be holding on to these sheets, and who knows? I hope all of us will do this together and when 2024 hits. But Rick says the Yankees. Eric says the Phillies. Not a bad choice, although it's a hitter's ballpark. or a bandbox, Jordan? Well, it's pretty. The logic is there with Steve Cohen spending, and I'm going with the Padres. All right. So with that said, okay, speaking of the Padres, let's talk about the series that nobody expected. San Diego against Philadelphia. All right, Rick Curry, give me your thoughts about what we can expect in the National League Championship Series.
Two teams nobody thought. They struggled. One fired their manager, another was dysfunctional, and here they are. It's all about not how you start, how you finish. Both these teams are red hot. They're doing great. It's both Cinderella teams, but I like the Phillies. I just think they're just on such a high right now. You have a great manager. They signed him to 2 years, so they don't have to worry about doing a search. And they're just all cylinders. Bryce Harper is red hot right now. And I just think they're more of a unit right now than I see with the Padres. So I like the Padres. I like the Phillies in the series.
All right, Eric.
I got to go with the Phillies. Overall, it's going to come down to how their bullpen hold up. But that lineup is built to bash with Bryce Harper hot right now, which is what you want going into this game. You also have, just a great lineup overall. Castellanos is really making up for lost time. If you want a team that will that I think can that really make some noise, it's got to be the Phillies.
What about you, Jordan?
I completely disagree with you too. I think it's going to be San Diego. Here's why. If you look at the Padres, who do they have pitching? They've got Yu Darvish. They've got Blake Snell. By the way, both pitchers who have playoff experience. Then you look at their lineup, Manny Machado, Juan Soto. I mean, it is a battle of two great teams. I hope this goes 7, but I just think the edge in the pitching, at least the starting pitching, I have to go with San Diego.
I'm going with San Diego too. Bob Melvin finally has resources, and he's a good manager. So, they have a lot of hitting to go. I'll take their offensive production compared to the Phillies, although I saw the Phillies play a lot. It's pretty hard to argue against Castellanos. Rice Hopkins, I believe, is one of the ones, right? Who's one that played well. Then, of course, you got, so I mentioned Castellanos. I mentioned Hoskins, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper. There's definitely a lot of offense there for sure. But I still have to lean towards San Diego. I love Bob Melvin, what he's doing. You give the guy some talent, and he proved that he can manage it. So I think that's what led to their undoing when they let their previous manager go, was he didn't have the ability to take it. I'm trying to remember who their last manager was. You guys remember?
It was Jace Tigler.
Yeah, right. Okay. I think he was. So, I think the upgraded manager makes a lot. But, in San Diego, hey, listen, let's face the reality. They, defeated a heavily favored Dodgers team in the playoffs, and now they have earned the right to play for an opportunity to get to the World Series for sure. So, all right. Well, we're going to continue to take our march down Segway Lane and talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers. 111 wins, most in franchise history. It never mattered. But before we go into this thing, we'll talk about the notable Dodgers free agents: Trey Turner, Clayton Kershaw, Justin Turner, who does happen to have a club option, Craig Kimbrell, Joey Gallo, Andrew Haney, Tyler Anderson. And here's an interesting piece of information. Now, the Dodgers have had 100-win seasons in their playoff results since 1900. And I'm going to go by the years where you have 9 total. 2022, they were 111-51, most in franchise history. 2021, 106-56, quite a bit, right? Lost in the NL. Well, this year was the NLDS. The last year, NLCS. 2019, they won 106 as well. Lost the NLDS. 2017, they were 104-58, lost in the World Series. 1974, 102-60, they lost in the World Series. 1962, 102-63. Well, at that point, there was no additional playoffs. It was just not applicable. 1953, 105-49, they lost in the World Series. 1942, 104-50, not applicable. And 1941, 100 wins and 54 losses. So to say that you have 9 teams that won 100 games and did not go ahead and win the World Series is saying a mouthful. Now we know that Rick Curdy is a Dodgers guy, so I don't know. I don't think if you're a Dodgers fan, you don't want to turn to this show since we're really not making your club look very good. Take it from there, Rick.
Yeah, I've been saying this for the last 3 years. I'm going to say it again. Dave Roberts needs to go. He's an idiot. He's Mr. Analytics. He's obsessed with it. I guess he likes seeing what Kevin Cash did in the World Series when he took out Snell. So I guess he felt like, hey, let me repeat and do the same thing. And he lost. The Dodgers choked. I said if they don't win the World Series, they're going to be the Buffalo Bills of Major League Baseball. They are. Sorry, it doesn't count during the pandemic. Big O asterisk. And now the Dodgers have said they're going to keep Dave Roberts. Freeman, I don't know if Dave Roberts got some film on him or have him on audio. I don't know. He's blackmailing him. I don't know what he knows about it, but he needs to go. I don't care if he win 111 or 200. You need to win a championship. And he just can't do it because he's so obsessed with analytics and makes the most idiotic moves I've ever seen by any manager I've ever seen. And I've been following baseball for a long time. Dodgers, you want to win World Series? Mike Scioscia, go get him.
Okay, Jordan.
I will say this. Dave Roberts was, his managerial record is 653, 380. I know we've talked about the 2020. They still won the World Series in 2020. I think the biggest problem, though, is where were these hitters in the playoffs? I mean, you hit it on the head with the, Justin Turner, Trey Turner, Clayton Kershaw even got shelled. The thing is what you had, a 3-0 lead in game 4. You had a chance to close them out. What happens? The Padres came back 5-3. That is a Dave Roberts problem. I'm not going to lie because he went to his bullpen and his bullpen didn't hold. The thing about the Dodgers is, they're going to spend. They're still going to be one of the better teams next year. I think Dave Roberts is fine for now, but if he fails to win the World Series next year or even gets knocked out in the NLDS, then you can think of switching managers. Rick Curdy's just hitting the panic button right now.
I've seen this for so long, man. I mean, this has been going on 106, nothing, 111. This was the biggest choke job in recent memory. They're the Buffalo Bills. People don't want to see Dave Roberts. He keeps doing this over and over and over again, and he needs to go, and Freeman needs to grow a set and get rid of him.
I don't know, Jordan, you want to counter back with Rick here? We have a little bit of a thing going between you guys, and then my boy who's going to be next.
I think the thing is would you rather be in the playoffs or not be in the playoffs? My two teams haven't been in the playoffs since 2018, and that's the Rockies and the Cubs.
They stink.
Yeah, well, and why is that? They don't have any ownership. I'd rather have ownership that's willing to spend money rather than having ownership that doesn't care. That's the thing, is the Dodgers actually care. They have a manager who, let's face it, is a better manager than the Rockies have in Bud Black. I would suspect if you were to fire Dave Roberts, he'll be high on everybody's list. So you got to keep him.
All right, Eric, now's your opportunity to go ahead and judge what Rick and Jordan are saying. Let's get a little perspective from my son.
Well, to start, I mean, who else is going to do the job that Dave Roberts has done? For example, I know this is wrong sport, but let's just take college football, for example. Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern.
Right.
When he has a losing record, everybody's like, oh, fire him. But that, who else is going to do the job Pat Fitzgerald has done? I don't think anybody else would have taken them to a Big Ten championship, no matter what the year was. But, the fact of the matter is, I mean, the Dodgers are willing to spend, and they're willing to break the luxury tax and do everything in their power to be competitive. They, Matt, they've proven that. Their biggest issue is this team, the Dodgers themselves, have a history of choking. And obviously I was kind of laughing a little bit because Scott was reading off Rick's essentially Rick's pain, which probably might have put him in the hospital. But the thing about it is, if Dave Roberts gets fired, let's just say the Dodgers fired Dave Roberts like they did Don Mattingly. Let's just, there will be 29 other teams that will want to hire him.
You can have him.
Which 29 other teams will hire him. I mean, he'll have a job within 24 hours. He won't be unemployed very long. Because considering what he's accomplished with the Dodgers, I mean, multiple 100-win seasons, which, and obviously having 111 wins, which to this point is the fourth best in all of baseball. The first two being the Yankees in '98 and the Mariners in 2001. But the thing about the Dodgers is they didn't have the bullpen. Their bullpen was thin all year long. They were just relying off of the starting pitching going deep, and then also the bats bashing. That's what they were doing. They forgot that you actually need a pen too to survive, which in this day and age of baseball is essential. You can't just have guys, back into the pen throwing cookies down the middle. You need a pen where, well, the starting pitcher can throw 100, but my guys coming out of the stable in the bullpen can throw 100 too. So, but that's the thing the Dodgers failed to do, which in the past when they've been able to win the National League pennant and go to the World Series, they've had the bullpen. This year they didn't have it. They were just relying on the fact they had great starting pitching, and they did really great starting pitching, but also going into it, 111 game wins. You got to think that might, in the amount of close games they had in the past, you got to think that might have taken a toll on them in the postseason. We saw what it did we saw that the Rays had to literally fight tooth and nail just to get into the playoffs, and it eventually cost them against Cleveland. And then also same with the Braves coming out, snatching the NL East from the choking Mets, and you saw what happened to them against Philadelphia. But the thing about it though is you can blame Dave Roberts all you want, you can blame his analytics and whatever, but the thing is, no bullpen. It was thin all year. People seem to want to forget about that. As far as Freddie Freeman goes, good luck dumping that contract because no one in their right mind is going to want to take that on.
All right, well, let me just add a couple things here. When the Dodgers did get eliminated by the Padres, I think my first feeling was that maybe they would part with them. Maybe I'm drinking a lot of the Curdy Kool-Aid here. But the only guy that I could have seen take over would have been Mike Scioscia. He won a world championship with the Angels, which is never easy to do anyways. He survived in that job like over 15 years. So if there was ever a guy to replace Roberts with, it would have definitely have been Mike Scioscia. I'm with you there, Rick. Now, everybody talks about their bullpen being weak. Yeah, Kenley Jansen on your lineup is going to certainly cramp your style, and they should have kept him however they could have done it. But to pull a pitcher when he's going well, after 5 innings or so, was it 86 pitches? I don't remember exactly. When he could have gone another 4 or 5 innings in a winner-take-all game, no, you really have to go the distance with this kid. You really do. If you really are that fast. The thing I don't like about Major League Baseball, although I'll be covering it anyways, because it's the one sport that's number one on my list, is the specialization has gotten out of control. There's nothing wrong, folks, with a complete game or two here and there, particularly in the playoffs. Your season's limited to 3 to 5 games, depending what round you're in. There is nothing. Complete games do not need to be extinct. Okay, and that's where the Dodgers misread it against the Padres. They did. You have a kid out there telling you that you go out there, hey, I can keep going, Skip. I really can. Do it. Especially when your Achilles heel is the bullpen. You know where your weaknesses are. You know what? Even if you get him through 7 innings, okay, is better than where they stopped the guy at, right? But again, analytics to me, I know that's what the game is all about. And there are lots of, baseball will still trying to make rule changes. The one rule that I am glad that they did institute was a 3-batter minimum for the bullpen, because that's okay in a sense where it reminds you of how bullpens used to be when they used to go 2-3 innings all day long. Of all the rules that they made, that was what I had no problem acclimating to. And I used to ask Donnie Mattingly about all these rule changes. He says, Scott, you know what? No matter what we want to say about the whole thing, we can complain about them all the way out, but when they're the rule changes, we're going to have to adapt no matter what we think anyhow. So, but Candy Ebling says, stop pulling pitchers that are pitching well for any reason. I don't care how many pitches you have thrown. When you're hot, you're hot. And she's dead right. Yeah, so I'll close on that thought, But yeah, I guess the only successor that I could have saw would have been Mike Scioscia. But now, of course, Dave Roberts is going to be under a bigger microscope next year. If he blows it again, do you think the Dodgers probably will definitely reconsider a change? I definitely do at that point.
They'll be thinking about it at the very least.
Well, exactly, Eric. Thinking about it at the very least. And there's no doubt the guy could get a job somewhere else now. I mean, there's certain managers that could get a job if they're let go tomorrow. The reputation is so good, they get hired again.
Even Aaron Boone could. I mean, the guy's
Well,
made
that's
to the
true.
playoffs every year. I mean, say what you want about the guy, and say what you want about his team, but he's won and made the playoffs every single year he's been there.
Excellent point, Eric. And that's the whole thing. I think that there's no doubt, but staying on point with Dave Roberts, excuse me. Okay. There's no doubt he'll land somewhere else, but 2023 is a make or break year. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that list I gave you guys about notable free agents, we'll see which ones come back, which ones don't. And I don't know whether, I hate to bring up other sports, but I will for the NFL for all intents and purposes. When the New York Giants won a couple Super Bowls, winning 9 games, the Packers won a Super Bowl with 10-6 mark, that had better records, amounted to nothing. Well, I mean, you look, I just read you guys off some numbers where the Dodgers had 9 100-win seasons, okay, and they didn't win the World Series. So, 23 is a make or break year for the Dodgers. All right, let's move on to the next topic. I'm going to call this something very, very different, okay? I'm going to call it the Marvin Hagler Thomas Hearns baseball match. What do I mean by that? Houston defeated Seattle 3-0 in a classic. Let's break down the games. There were only 3, but they were good ones. Game 1, Seattle wins 8-7, come from behind. Win, Jordan Alvarez 3-run homer off of Robbie Ray. I understand the decision to bring in. I understand the lefty-lefty matchup when I believe that they made the move. Backfired. Unfortunately, Robbie Ray is going to be is going to be in the news for all the wrong reasons, highlights for all the wrong reasons because of this. But nevertheless, Jordan Alvarez with a 3-run homer off of Robbie Ray. There's your hero in game 1, 8-7, and got bailed out Justin Verlander, who ended up with a no decision. October 11th. October 13th, game 2, Seattle 4-2 win. Go ahead, 2-run homer off Seattle ace Luis Castillo. Guess what? Looks like it was Jordan Alvarez who pulled the trick again. And if you're looking for your 2-for-1, I'm not talking about the entertainment book, but I'm talking 2-for-1. Let's go to game 3. Seattle goes 18 innings, but ends on a Jeremy Pena solo home run, 3-game sweep. All right. Well, you know what? Seattle hadn't been to the playoffs in 21 years. They weren't in any hurry to leave. They wiped out the Toronto Blue Jays anyways. But I got to hand it to the Mariners. They were gallant. They were. And this one, when I say Thomas Hearns and Marvin Hagler, they fought it out for 3 runs in one of the best fights I've ever seen. And these two teams fought real hard. And when you see that these games were decided by a total of 4 runs, you think 8-7, 1 runs for the Astros. And of course, now 4-2 is 3, and then a 1 run. 4 runs decided 3 victories. All right, Rick Curdy, give me your take on the Houston-Seattle series.
Fantastic. Seattle, I mean, they were the David in this whole thing. They were, we're talking about maybe Scott Service going to be let go. They went on a hot pace. They made the playoffs, and they didn't disappoint. They played really, really good. Unlike the Dodgers, they had a lot of heart, took care of business with the Blue Jays, who we thought the Blue Jays would go in there and defeat them. And the Mariners were like, no, no, no. And they defeated them soundly. And he took Houston to the limit, 12 rounds, even though they got swept. It was, 18 innings, and he lose, to a game-winning home run. Nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm sure Service will get a contract extension and little raise. Did a great job. Candidate for Coach of the Year or Manager of the Year. So Seattle is nothing to hang their heads down. They did great, and I think the future is very bright for them.
Jordan.
I will say I didn't think that Seattle would get past the Blue Jays just because I thought the Blue Jays were the better team. But then you go against the Astros. It was David versus Goliath, and guess what? They hung in. 2 of those games, game 1 and game 3, could have gone their way. But even when they got home, they didn't hang their heads. They played. Seattle played a great game, and game 3, won 18 innings. They lost 1-0, but like Ray Curdy said, the manager's going to get a contract extension because he took him to the playoffs. Secondly, the future is definitely bright. Next year could be their time to actually go a little bit further in the playoffs. They weren't expected to go this far, so definitely, exceeded expectations. So the future is definitely bright for them to do something special next year.
All right, so subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com and advertise call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you can follow me at Tribune South. Just want to make sure we got that information in there. Okay, Eric, size up the Houston-Seattle series.
Well, it was a sweep, no doubt, by Houston. Very well deserved. But at the same time, though, Seattle gave Houston all they could handle. They weren't backing down. They weren't intimidated. They rocked Justin Verlander. People are going to forget about that. He got rocked and only lasted, I think, 4 innings. But I think Houston's a very experienced team. You have Jordan Alvarez, who's probably the most powerful batter, who has the most power in baseball. Obviously, I think even more than Aaron Judge, if you think about it. But Jordan Alvarez is a clutch performer. He's a big time player. He's no doubt, I think, the best player on that Astros squad. And they gave him all they could handle. You take them, to 16 innings. That's nothing to snuff over. You managed to, even there were some and that wasn't just people not getting on base. Houston had opportunities that game to really put the game away early, but Seattle kept with it. Everybody, they did what they do, and they won with what got them there, which was pitching. They beat Toronto, which I wasn't expecting because Toronto has a great offense, with Vlad and all them. But I wasn't expecting them to come all the way back in that game where they decided to just not roll over and die against Toronto. They came back against them and were able to get to the point they did. And even though it was a sweep, they did really well. This wasn't like a walk in the park and fans at the game and at home were just on their couch relaxing, having a beer. But,
Right.
This team made it interesting. And I think that, they're going to be someone to pay attention to this next season.
Well, I just mentioned it. 4 runs decided a 3-game series. Now, I can tell you right now, Jordan Alvarez, to me, makes the case for being Mr. October. He's looking pretty good.
No.
He really did. I think about it. He wins 2 games, for the Astros. He made a good case. So, of course, did the Astros miss Carlos Correa? No, they didn't. So,
Nope.
and another thing, too, is, things are looking bright up in Seattle. I'm really happy to see. Not only did the team go ahead and snap a 21-year playoff drought, but they did it looking pretty good. The way they walked into Toronto and just took that series, especially being down by a lot of runs anyhow. So
they basically took it to Toronto and just handed them their garbage.
Yeah, they did. They really did, Eric. And what's more important is they gave Seattle everything that they could. It's not like they were blown out. Let's face reality.
Nope.
4 runs, 3-game series. What else do I need to add? So Carlos Correa will be, to me, he'll be out there. He did not exercise his player option to stay in Minnesota. So we'll talk about it at a later date where he winds up. The focus point here is on the series. 2 series, I should say, really. The fact that Seattle walked into Toronto and won a pair of games, and the fact that they gave the Astros everything they have. But in the end, Dusty Baker still has a shot at the World Series, and that's where we're going to go from there. And we'll segue over to the fact that the Yankees, with Mr. Concrete Dump wearing that Yankee hat, probably proud of it, won 5-1 over Cleveland, and they face the Astros. They take that series 3-2. All right, Concrete Dump, talk about your Yankees and how they did it against Cleveland and what's ahead.
Well, Cleveland's a tough out. There's no doubt about it. They are a tough out. They go against the grain. They're not like a team that's going to overwhelm you with power like Houston will, or like New York will, or the Mets, or any number of teams that believe in who are playing modern day baseball, which is to bash the ball over the fence. But they win with contact. They win with speed. Stephen Kwan was just a real pain. The guy's a tough out, and I think he has a real chance to be the AL Rookie of the Year because he had a heck of a season this year. and he's proven, I think, to be one of the better leadoff hitters in baseball. And so, but yeah, they, it was a tough series. Obviously, Cleveland just had a lot of lucky bloop singles, and they put a couple duck splats, which cost the Yankees a couple of those games. And it also didn't help that IKF just got into a fielding slump at the wrong time. But the Yankees prevailed. I mean, today they weren't messing around. They got on the board early, and then they added a run in the middle of the game, and then obviously you had Nestor Cortez on 3 days rest, who just pitched an absolute masterpiece. The only run he gave up was on a sac fly, and then he got out of the inning. So he gave him five very strong innings. I mean, what more can you ask for the guy? You're thinking, 3 days rest. Oh no, this could be trouble, especially giving up a hit to Steven Kwan to begin the game. But about a few innings later, after the fifth, then they take him out, and then they let the bullpen do it, which the bullpen was just getting, like just ripped everywhere, and everyone and anyone was just ripping on that pen, and particularly on Clay Holmes and everyone else in there. Part of it too was injuries, which losing Scott Efros was no fun, who I think was going to be their best arm out of the pen, and Ron Marinaccio, him having the shin injury at the wrong time, although I think he'll be back for the ALCS. But still, this bullpen, they proved they can hold leads. I mean, with the exception of the other night, the bullpen really did a good job at just keeping the Yankees, in the win column, and ultimately today it was the bullpen that finished the job. I mean, obviously, it also helped that Josh Naylor decided to trash talk while he was down by disrespectfully rocking the baby in front of Cole, but he didn't do anything else after the fact. He was one or two for whatever how many at bats he did. But man, the Yankees rocked him back home, which he was obviously became Miles Straw was obviously with the awful event was public enemy number one, but now Naylor, for obvious reasons, is. And so, but the Yankees certainly rocked the bats to sleep. So it looks like, but yeah, getting Josh Naylor out for the rest of that game was probably the most satisfying out aside from the Red Sox.
Okay, Jordan, give me your take on the Yankees beating Cleveland to advance the next round.
It was one great series, like Eric was talking about. The Yankees bullpen did their job, but I will say the offense for the Yankees, they didn't have a lot of, base hits to score runs. It was a lot of home runs. But either way, you still got the timely home run like today in the first inning by Giancarlo Stanton for a 3-run home run. The thing about it is Cleveland, they fought. I mean, I didn't think this series would go 5. I had it going 4. They came out and said, you know what, we're not going to take the big bad Yankees. They're not going to push us over. And that's exactly what happened. They ended up winning, a couple of these games, obviously 2 of them. But I have to wonder how much the fact that they didn't play yesterday and had to go through the rain delay. I know both teams had to deal with it, but how much that actually hurt, Cleveland, because the story is they had to, split up and go to different hotels rather than one hotel. Well, the Yankees got to play, got to sleep in their own bed. So it just makes me wonder how much that actually affected. But in the end, I mean, the Yankees played better, had the better bullpen. They gave up only 1 run today. So hats off to the Yankees. Now they're playing the Astros.
Well, here's
all right, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to add on to that. I mean, you have to wonder, but at the same time, this has been an adversity series all series long for both teams.
True.
And the thing about it was, unfortunately, they chose the wrong time to really to cancel their hotel plans, especially, and they didn't really have to too, because, and this is kind of at Major League Baseball as well, is they knew that there was most likely this game was going to be delayed. The weather radar said it was going to rain ugly. It's at 100% chance of rain, which, Scott, living in Florida, when it rains, it rains. But and it ended up doing just that. They didn't have to do that. They could have just kept it, they could have easily made the arrangements, well, just in case it rains, whatever. But they didn't, and they ended up having to be split up and having to go to hotels in Yonkers near the Bronx, which is not a great area to begin with. But they had, but again, you're going to face adversity. You're going to have things not go your way, and it's your job to get it, and it's their job to get the job done. So even as a Yankee fan or an average baseball fan in general, no, I have no sympathy for them whatsoever.
All right, Rick, what's your take on the Cleveland Yankees series?
Another David versus Goliath. Big bad Yankees with all that money and all the home runs facing this team that barely squeaked in, weak division. But they're old school. The Guardians. Just a lot of timely hitting, great pitching, hit runs. I love it. Where the Yankees just bomb home runs. So the Yankees won barely, but got to tip your hat off to Cleveland. They did a great job. And like Seattle, they have nothing to be embarrassed about. Terry Francona is one of the best managers in baseball. He does so much more with less. I mean, can you imagine him on the Dodgers or like a Yankee somewhere? I mean, he would. If he had a stacked
Red Sox,
the stacked lineup. I mean, he's just a phenomenal manager. So, I tip my hat off to the Guardians. They did great, but the Yankees have too much firepower. And Eric, your boy Aaron Judge, you need to start hitting.
he hit a home run.
Yeah, I know, but before that, he was not hitting, so he needs to be more consistent.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, it's what's going to come down to is, they have those Stanton and Judge really need to get it more going because it's great to see that guys like Harrison Bader, who was Cleveland's daddy in the ALDS, and it's great to see other guys step it up, obviously. But what's going to come down to is can Stanton and Judge do it in October? I know that's probably going to be a bargaining chip that the Steinbrenner family, which we all know how October is in New York, and it's the most important month in the world over there. But it's what's going to come down to is can those guys get it going against Houston, because Houston is a tough out. I mean, Houston's a threat, and also Cleveland. I mean, Terry Francona. I mean, Scott, you were saying it from day one. Terry Francona gives his teams a fighting chance, and he did just that against New York. Francona can manage. I mean, yes, he managed in a high market before in Philadelphia and Boston, where he won two World Series rings, but and nearly won another with Cleveland. But he's a heck of a manager. The guy can literally manage everywhere he goes. Small market, big market, doesn't matter. The guy just wins. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame manager right there.
All right, so let me add a couple things to this, and then we're going to go to our parting shots in a moment. Okay, number one. And I'm going to ask you guys this. In fact, I'm going to ask you guys this question before I go ahead and add something to this series. Rick, we'll start with you. Jordan, you mentioned it before, but I'm going to go back to you again. The postponed game, does that help or hurt well, we know it helped. It helped the Yankees, but it hurt the Guardians staying in New York another day?
No, I don't believe so. I think the Yankees had just too much firepower. I don't think it hurt them at all. It's just that the Yankees are just a little too much, and like I said, the Guardians just didn't have enough power there in their lineup. It's just like I said, David versus Goliath. He did great, but I don't think that rain delay had anything to do with it.
All right, but now on the other hand, the Yankees were able to use Nestor Cortez, right, Jordan? So I'm going to turn it over to you. So do you feel that the Yankees were beneficiaries because of the rain out and going to a pitcher that I don't believe was planned to pitch yesterday?
I do believe it benefited the Yankees, but both teams had to deal with it. But in the end, yes, it definitely benefited the Yankees because, like you said, they weren't going to pitch Cortez, and he ends up pitching today, pitched really well. So, yeah, I definitely think it benefited the Yankees.
Okay, Eric?
I really don't think it made a difference, and here's why. Because, number one, Tyone was going to go, and it was probably going to be the same game as it was going to be. Try and get 4 or 5 innings out of the starter and then go to your pen, which is what the Yankees did. I know for a fact that it was rumored that Nestor would probably make an appearance at some point. I know that Garrett Cole, who had pitched 116 pitches a day or two before, right, was already ready to go. As a matter of fact, was warming up in the pen tonight, despite pitching the other day. Right. So, Cortez could have very easily come out and pitched one or two innings. So he could have been in the game anyway. But the fact that the Yankees were able to get 5 strong innings from him is bonus. But the fact of the matter is, the Yankees had to deal with the rain too. They were ready to go. I mean, keep in mind though, the Yankees stole a game in Cleveland and had all the momentum going for them after Garrett Cole shut down Cleveland. So right, they had the momentum there. So really, you'd be concerned that if the Yankees momentum would get halted because of the rain delay. So either way, though, the Yankees have experience doing this, and Cleveland's lineup just aside from Terry Francona and Jose Ramirez, because he was on that team that went to the World Series. There wasn't a lot of experience there. I mean, Bieber, yeah, I guess, but the fact of the matter is the Yankees have a bunch of guys who have played October baseball. Rizzo has a World Series ring with the Cubs, and also other guys on that team. Same with Garrett Cole, they've won. They've been in those situations before, rain delays and all that other stuff. So really, it was experience. It was a matter of experience, and at the end of the day, the daddy wins.
All right. When you have a great crew, I get to watch you guys in action because you all do an unbelievably dynamite job. When I can see each and every one of you three guys, okay, reading my mind, it means I feel really good because I don't have to say a whole lot at the end. Oh, I can be the first word or the last word. It doesn't make any difference to me. But here's what you've got. Earlier in the year, okay, I thought the White Sox would have been the favorite to win the American League Central. That's what I thought. I thought that the White Sox could build on what they were doing with Tony La Russa. Didn't work out that way. Tough year for the White Sox on the south side. Number two, okay, you guys are right. Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge need to have a much bigger series offensively if they have a puncher's chance with the Astros. These are your two guys you pay the most money or will. They better come up. Now, I understand DJ LeMahieu was not in the series. I think he was out of the first round, but I will see if he returns. But here's the deal. For a lot of you people looking to see Aaron Boone get let go, the Steinbrenner can say, well, it got us through another playoff series. Here's a guy that could get hired tomorrow. And we all know we'd love to have Don Mattingly here. At least many of them probably would. But the reality of the situation is Aaron Boone did a good managing job in this series. It's so easy to let and dismiss a manager go for the sake of making a change. But you better make a change if you think it's going to be worthwhile. Now, I'm going to go to a different sport altogether. And I remember when Rick Carlisle was coaching the Detroit Pistons, and Joe Dumars decided to make a bold move and let him go, and he brought in Larry Brown. How did that work out? Well, the Pistons got to 2 straight NBA Finals, winning one of them. If you're going to make a change, you better do it knowing that the next guy is going to take you over the top and not get rid of a guy who's had you in the ball game, so to speak, fighting to get there. Because they can either things go well or they go very badly and you trend south. So you got to be careful that you don't draw that fine line doing it. But that said, I do believe, and I'll reiterate what you guys said, Judge and Stanton need to come up much bigger in the Astros series, period. The Astros have had the Yankees number, period, okay? And we know that the back and forth about the cheating is what it is, but you know what? Forget the cheating, okay? Everybody wants to see Dusty Baker win it all because that's the only thing left for the guy to do. Would he come back for another year if he won it all? Who knows? I'm sure that Jim Crane, the owner, would love to have him, but Dusty has a choice to go out on top, and he's got everybody rooting for him, including the guy that thinks the Astros are cheaters. How many times, Curdy, have you told me that you want to see Dusty Baker win it?
They're the Trastros to me, but I want to see Dusty win it because he's a class act.
So thanks for echoing my thoughts. So here's the thing. Yeah, the Yankees got through the series, showed a lot of guts doing it. And I actually thought the Yankees were going to sweep the Guardians 3-0 because I thought that they were that well overmatched. But that just shows you how good of a manager Terry Francona is. And I can tell you right now, this is one of Terry Francona's best managing jobs ever, to take a team with a very low payroll and get them into the playoffs, period, let alone the fact that they ended up going to the second round because they earned the bye in the first round.
And that's what having a deep bullpen has, as well as great pitching.
True. Yeah.
Aside from Savali, maybe, but those guys are quality.
But the reality is the Cleveland Guardians, starting with a new name this year, I mean, got to get used to the Guardians alone, their previous name. And Terry Francona just did an outstanding job. But yeah, it was a David and Goliath kind of a series, and the Yankees were able to move on to the next round, winning 3-2. It's probably the best series that we've seen so far in the playoffs to begin with, and it came from this series. I know that the American League Centrals had a hard time beating the Yankees. I know the Twins have struggled, and I know the Guardians, but the Tigers beat them earlier in the century a couple of times when they were loaded when Mike Gillett ran the club. But we won't. That's for another day.
Derek Jeter broke his leg. That's why you won the second one.
What's that?
Derek Jeter broke his leg in the second one. That's why you won that one.
Well, it doesn't matter. They still won it. Nobody's going to sit there and look at the line. Yeah, Derek Jeter. Doesn't matter. They're not going to show in the record book that Derek Jeter broke the leg. They're going to show that the Tigers beat the Yankees.
The Tigers were loaded those years.
Well, they were. I mean, we get into Miguel Cabrera playing at high level, Magdaleno Ordonez.
Young Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I mean,
Jose Valverde was pitching really well.
Right, yeah, there you go. Keep rambling them off, Eric. That's one of the reasons why you're never getting out the baseball show totally, because this stuff comes off the tip of your tongue. Right. So with that, Eric, okay, what's going to come? The next thing that will come off the tip of your tongue are your parting shots.
Well, obviously, super stoked that the Yankees won, and that means they won a playoff series. Something the Mets and Dodgers, Rays, and Blue Jays failed to do, naming the four teams that I truly loathe. And so obviously it's on to Houston. It's going to be a challenge. They're having to play them in Houston. It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough, but it's going to be entertaining. I mean, where else could you want to be?
Okay. All right, Jordan.
I'm going to have to say with the Chicago Cubs, what is our plan this offseason? It just feels like you're putting your hat in a lot of different directions with all these free agents. What's our plan? I know you're going to spend the money, but I want to plan, to fix the bullpen, the starting pitching, and, get a shortstop or another bat in lineup. I know Jed Hoyer's going to do what he does best, and he's going to talk to the Ricketts family to try to improve this ball club. But I just want to see who are we really going after.
Okay. Rick?
Well, I've been talking about Dave Roberts. I'm sick of talking about him. He makes me sick to my stomach, or the Dodgers. But I think what's ruining baseball right now is analytics. I mean, this thing, I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of seeing these nerds who never play the game with these notebooks and doing this computer stuff. And to me, it's ruining the game of baseball. I mean, what happened with pitching with your gut, pitching with confidence instead of going with computers and going with stats? We see what analytics has done. It cost Kevin Cash a World Series. We see what happened with Dave Roberts. Like Scott said, the complete game is a dying art. We're not seeing the complete game no more. We're not seeing any of these things. It's all home run or nothing. And to me, it's ruining the game of baseball. People want to see the game of baseball, not a home run derby. We want to see complete games. When my mom, who doesn't know anything about baseball, wants to know why is Dave Roberts taking out that pitcher when he's pitching so good, that analytics is a problem. So we need to stop with these analytics. And people like Terry Francona and Dusty Baker, who are just old school managers that just manage, what they see and stuff instead of going with computer graphics like Cash and Roberts. Major League Baseball, you talk about banning the shift. You need to ban analytics all in baseball because to me, it's destroying the game.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you make a lot of valid points. Before I get to mine, I'll remind everybody once again, subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com and advertise. Call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also, if you struggle subscribing to our website, just go to youtube.com and please hit the subscribe button when you find South Florida Tribune. That way you'll get all the necessary notifications that we have with all of our shows, whether they're videos on the road or shows. And yes, last night I had the great pleasure of interviewing Al Garcia, the president of the Homestead Miami Speedway. I'm going to be covering that race over this weekend, so it's going to be neat. So, we try to get the best guests possible, and we hope that you have an opportunity to subscribe as well. And I should point out, please, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, and then we'll get back to you on those. Of my Twitter information is Scott at Tribune South. Now, my parting shot before I let everybody give their ID is this. Okay, we have a new playoff system, right? So-called home field advantage. But guess what happened in the first round? 3 of them, it never mattered. Toronto Blue Jays out in the first round. York Mets out after the first round. The Cardinals after the first round. And that's it. So what did it really matter? It amounted to nothing. Who was the only one that won in the first round?
The Yankees.
Exactly. Well, I'm talking about in the wild card round. Who am I missing out? Does it really matter? Probably not.
The Padres.
No, the Padres.
Hmm.
Well, does it really matter? No,
Nah.
probably not. Because the only thing that really matters, folks, Toronto, the New York Mets, and the Cardinals were out after the first round. But I will tell you one thing: they made some really entertaining series of, didn't they? And that's what it's all about. 3-game series doesn't matter as long as you, to me, because teams in Major League Baseball win in opposing parks anyways. And as a result, that's what happened. And now we see the Philadelphia Phillies, in my opinion, that are on house money. They really are on house money. And the San Diego Padres spent a boatload of it, okay? And as a result, what do you have? So, you know what, though? I am really, my early reviews of the new playoff system are still positive, regardless of how you go out there and slice it. They really are. And you know what? Take it all day long. It's better than game 163.
Agreed.
Agree.
Yeah. So, doesn't matter. I deliberately didn't write that 4 series down because it was a win, and it goes against the 3 that ended up advancing anyways, just even in this brand new format. So I think I don't know what I'm talking about, folks, about the one that was there. I looked it up. I just chose not to write it down. I wanted to focus on the 3 that advanced: Toronto, the Mets, and the Cardinals. So with that said, okay, great broadcast tonight. Rick Curdy, go ahead, give everybody your contact information. And we have a date with you tomorrow night on the Sports Exchange, don't we, Mr. Curdy?
Yep. You can find me on my website, www.charlottebats.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball. Instagram is Charlotte Bats. And you can find me on LinkedIn under Rick Curdy. If you have any comments or questions, you can always email me at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com for any information.
Jordan, go ahead.
So for the Sideline Sports Network, Mondays when the basketball season resumes, when we actually start the show in January, I will be on the NBA Carousel hosted by Megan Price. On Thursdays, you can find me on Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel as I am the Denver Broncos representative. On Fridays, I have a live stream that I post onto the Sideline Sports Network's YouTube called Under Review. It's basically my take on Colorado sports with a sprinkling of national sports stories as well. You can find me on Twitter at SportsScoop1 and read my blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays with podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com.
And now you're regular on South Florida Tribune Network, South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, and you've earned every bit of your airtime, if not then some. So, Jordan, to tell you that I'm proud of you is mildly stating the obvious, okay? You're doing a great job, and I'm glad that you're asserting yourself and relaxing and going with the format that we have here because you're doing awfully well. Quick study. Eric, you're next.
You can follow me on Twitter at Sports Team News, where I'm tweeting everything and anything Yankees, including in the offseason.
And not only that, Eric is also involved with Fire Up Wisconsin. Right now, we're still in the process of getting a schedule. I've been really bogged down a little bit with the end of Major League Baseball season. Came back from Cooperstown. I'm doing a lot of stuff with NASCAR, as well as a lot of the college football stuff that we're doing, but we're getting close to getting more and more episodes of Fire Up Wisconsin. Eric Katz, myself, Candy Ebling, Rick Curdy, and there'll be others that will eventually join the team or will be at the core of it. So
I got the Robin Yount jersey in the back to promote it.
That a boy. That's okay. He's my adopted son, folks, and I'm proud of this kid. He's come a long way since he started. Okay.
Okay.
But with all due respect, though, every one of you guys are a very important part of what we do. And I'm so grateful to be surrounded by a bunch of talented guys like you, because not only do you know your stuff, but you let your facts back up your opinion, your knowledge. I can't ask for any more than that. You know, I'm here to make sure that we do the best we can so that every one of our followers and fans sees that we try to look at everything and give you different ways to process the information. So with that said, this concludes another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. On behalf of Rick Curdy, Jordan Long, Eric Katz, and myself, Scott Morgan, around the Motor City Madmouth. We appreciate you tuning in tonight, and we look forward to our next edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Enjoy the playoffs, and please send us your feedback. Good night, everybody. God bless, and go out there and please be safe. Really,
Let's go, Yankees.
There you go. We know who you. Yeah, the hat speaks for itself. All right. And by the way, my hat's the Baseball Hall of Fame, where they all want to wind up at one point, anyways, one day. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.